Okay, so just beginning on your back or standing and doing some movement that feels nice to you. Take a couple minutes to drop in to the sensations of your body. If you've just gotten up, you might feel some desire to stretch long through both heels, arms overhead, or you might take some windshield wipers here. So even though we're concentrating on the shoulders today, of course, everything is connected. That's been the theme this week, the spine as the uh, centerpiece of the body, and then the four corners being the shoulders and the hips. So there'll be some other movements, of course, but we're going to try to isolate a lot of the movement in our shoulders. And again, of course, take care of if you have any ongoing chronic issues in your shoulders. You might feel some resistance today, and we want to play our edge but not dive over the edge. So let's just come to our backs now, and you can take the soles of your feet to the floor and rest your knees together in a position of comfort. And then just press the back of your head slightly into the floor and tuck your shoulder blades underneath and feel your the entire surface of your shoulder blades, your scapulae, on the floor. Just feel that. Take a couple breaths here. And then we'll scrub the shoulders a bit. So you'll just draw your left hand down towards your left hip and feel that shoulder blade reach down, and the other one's kind of comes up, and then relax, reach your right hand down towards your right heel or hip, and that left shoulder blade then will lift up and the right will kind of scrub down. So just moving back and forth, and just feeling, bringing your awareness to the shoulder blade, one and then the other. And then after a few rounds, just come back to neutral. And then let's start with the right arm this time. Bring your shoulder up by your ear, so that's elevation. And then squeeze your shoulder blade in towards your midline. That's going to be retraction. Draw your shoulder down, so reaching right hand towards right hip, depression, and then bring your shoulder out away from midline. That will be protraction. So just see if you can make a circular motion with the shoulder blade. And then you could try the opposite direction. And then go to the other side to try the same thing. Take it slow to start and really feel all four of those movements. Reverse the direction. Great. And then we're going to rock up or roll to one side, come up to the seat. And then just like we did the other day with our hips, when we got into a squat and kind of got a baseline, let's just get a baseline for our shoulders. So you could bring one shoulder behind and pat yourself on the back, one hand behind, pat yourself on the back. Bring the other arm up from the bottom and see how close you're, without overly working here, just see how close you can get your fingers to one another, and then switch the other side. And one side is likely tighter than the other, okay? But just to get a baseline there. Great. And then we'll take the strap, whatever strap you have, and just bring the strap out in front. You could be sitting here, you could also be on your knees, or you could be standing, whatever feels fine to you. And just bring the strap just up, just above your head and back down. We call this shoulder flossing. So just, again, just getting a baseline. And at some point, if you want to try to go behind your back, you might have to increase the space. So see if you can go all the way back without bending the elbows. Come forward. So I have to have my strap pretty wide, my hands pretty wide to make that action happen. And then you could bring the strap one arm behind, the other one up overhead. So back elbow is bent a bit, or top elbow is bent a bit. Just feeling into this sort of side opening movement, working in the shoulders here. Great. Okay, and then just set your strap over to the side for now. And I think it'll be easiest if we stand for this next part. So I'm gonna take off my jacket so I can give some visual. All right, so you could be standing or on your knees as I am, okay? So we'll start by squeezing the shoulders together. That's retraction. And then separating the shoulders, that's protraction. Squeeze the shoulders together. Pull the shoulder blades apart. I should say shoulder blades. So squeeze them together, pull them apart. Now this time, squeeze the shoulder blades together, draw them up, your shoulders up towards your ears, draw the shoulder blades apart, take the shoulders down away from your ears. Squeeze shoulder blades together, retraction. Bring your shoulders up by your ears, elevation. Separate shoulder blades, protraction. Let your shoulders come away from your ears, depression. So you're moving around in a circle. And here's where, if you wanted to squeeze something in your hands, you might feel it a little differently. Great. And then we'll reverse that same thing. So now we'll protract, bring the shoulder blades away from each other, shoulder down away from the ears, retract, shoulder blades towards one another, shoulders up towards ears, elevate. So protract, draw your shoulders down, retract, lift up towards your ears. Move in that direction. Good. And now, if you've been kneeling like me, take a block right between your legs. Squeeze the block between your legs to pull everything to midline and give you a sort of an anchor. And then do the same thing. So starting in one direction. So you could, it doesn't matter where you start. If you elevate, you could then retract, depress, protract. So everything, I'm starting by going sort of backwards with my shoulders. But wherever you start, do a few rounds, keep squeezing the block, and then change the direction of your circles. Good, and then come back to center and just rest your arms down by your side for just a minute. Okay, let's look at some flexion and extension. So I'm going to squeeze the block, and I'm just going to bring my left forearm across my body to suggest that I'm going to not turn in my torso, but just my arms. So I'm going to inhale my right arm up, and I'm going to reach back behind until I feel resistance. Okay, once I feel that resistance, I internally rotate my arm and reach back behind, lifting my hand as high as I can and reaching back behind me. And then I let the arm come down to my side. And now I'll go in the opposite direction. So reach the arm behind you. When you feel resistance, you'll have to externally rotate the arm to bring it back up and come back to the front of your body. Okay, so let's maybe come to a T, and let's visit internal and external rotation real quick. So if I have my palms facing the floor and I turn my thumbs down, that's internal rotation. And then if I palms up towards the ceiling, that's external rotation. And everything is always a little harder when we go really slow. So just stick with it and see if you can get that real awareness of what your shoulder is doing. So you'll inhale your arm up and back until it just won't go anymore, right? And then you internally rotate the arm, reach back behind you, then come down to your side. Then take your hand back behind you again till it won't go anymore. Externally rotate, bring it back up, and come down to the side. Let's try the other side. Sweep your arm up. You can't go anymore. You'll internally rotate. Reach back behind you, palm up. And my left doesn't go as high as my right. And then I lower that arm back down. Sweep it back. It won't go any further. I externally rotate my arm, reach up, and come back to the front. Let's try it again. Sweep the arm up. As soon as you hit resistance, you're going to internally rotate, spin your upper arm in, you reach back, and I can feel that I'm trying to use my torso more on this side. And I just come down to the side here. So palm is facing back. Sweep that arm back. Again, when I meet resistance, I externally rotate, come back up, and then rest my arms. And just rest both arms by your side. Cool. All right. From here, with the block still in, let's just swing our arms like you're going for a walk and you really want to get some work in your shoulders. And your torso will move back and forth a little bit. And if it's okay for your shoulders, allow the arms to come all the way up. All right, you can see that I'm twisted. I've got my right arm back, left arm forward, but you might be in a different place. And then bring arms parallel to one another. Turn the other way, or bring the arms in the opposite direction that they were, and begin again. And again, if it's okay, this sort of more ballistic movement, allow both arms to come all the way up. And the next time you're up, your arms are both up, have them come together, then switch the direction and begin again. Okay, and you're probably getting a little bit fatigued, which is good. And then just relax, let your arms hang down. So one of my teachers says that what happens, especially in places like the shoulders, we have a lot of tension in the shoulders because we actually don't work them hard enough to then let them relax. Okay, so I'm gonna kneel down for this next part just so you can see me, but keep squeezing the block. And now bring your shoulders all the way up to your ears and squeeze them together. So retract. So up in the ears, retract, really holding that tension. And then just shake your head no. Bring one ear to the other, to the same shoulder, back to center, other direction, back. Keep squeezing. And then relax. Let's try it one more time. So bring your ears up into your shoulders and retract. Bring the shoulder blades together. So there's lots of muscular action going on. And then you can sort of bring your head back and forth. And then relax. Whew. I can feel that work in my shoulders quite intensely. All right, now come to your mat and come to, let's try, if you have 2 blocks, you'll set your blocks up. And you're going to take your forearms to your blocks and come into table. If you don't have 2 blocks, I would suggest probably just having hands on the floor, maybe fingers out a little bit. You could play around with that, but we're going to do the same thing we did standing, but now we're going to have the feedback. We're going to have a closed chain. So I'm going to do forearms on my block, knees underneath my hips, right? And then I'm going to, let's just practice protraction and retraction. So retraction, the shoulder blades come together, but I'm not sinking completely down into the floor. So keep some tension in your abdomen. And then protraction, I just push into the blocks and separate my shoulder blades. So retraction, protraction, retraction, protraction. Okay, now let's try the elevation and depression. So draw shoulders up towards ears, back away. Up towards ears, and back away. Towards ears, back away. And now let's try some circles. Remember to keep some good intention in the abdomen so you're not just collapsing down to the floor. So let's bring the shoulders up towards the ears. Retract. Down. Protract. Up towards the ears. Retract. Down. Protract. Keep going in that direction. It might not feel like you're doing a lot. That's okay. And it's a lot of brain work as well. Up towards ears, retract, down, away, protract. Good, and then we'll come back to neutral, and let's try the opposite direction. Protract, down, away, retract, up towards the ears. Protract, down, away, retract, up towards the ears, protract. Okay, go in this direction. Okay, and then last one, and then just let your hips come back. Take a little rest in child's pose. And just because we're doing a lot of static work here, we'll throw in a little sun salutation every once in a while. So on your next inhale, come on up to table. Exhale, turn your toes under, press into downward facing dog. Spin your triceps down towards the floor and try to pull the mat apart with your hands. Inhale, come forward to high plank. Exhale, lower your knees, lower your body down to the floor. Inhale to a cobra. And exhale, press yourself back, downward facing dog. Inhale, drop your knees to the mat, come to cow. And exhale, drop your hips back, child's pose. Inhale, sweep up on your knees and reach your arms up overhead, bringing palms towards one another. And exhale, fold back down, child's pose. Good, and then just sit on your heels. Feel for stacking the back of your head. So the back of your head is lined up with your sacrum. Great, and then we're all gonna go to our hands, move the block side of the way, and do the same thing. So on our hands, and you could spin your hands, fingers out here, just try a little different position of the hands. All right, and so begin with retraction and protraction. So it's really not cat-cow, because the hips are pretty still and the navel's pulled up and in, just in the shoulders. And you might notice whether you're bending your elbows or not. So if you're bending your elbows, you're not isolating the shoulders. Just isolate the shoulders. Then can you do the away from ears, up towards ears, away from ears, up towards ears. And now try the circles. So you could retract, draw the shoulder blades away, protract, bring them up towards your ears. Retract, draw the shoulder blades away, protract, bring your shoulder blades up, or your shoulders up towards your ears. Retraction, shoulder blades together, draw the shoulders away from the ears, protraction, shoulder blades away from each other, draw your shoulders up towards your ears. All right, a couple more times in that direction. And then let's go just reverse it. Wherever you are in the cycle, see if you can reverse the circle. And just come back, rest your hips back for just a breath or two in child's pose, or take a vinyasa of sorts. And then we'll inhale back up to, we'll meet at tabletop again. And now we're going to try to do one direction with one shoulder, opposite direction with the other shoulder. So I can bring my right shoulder towards my ear, my left shoulder away. And then pulling my left shoulder blade away from my back, my right shoulder blade in, left shoulder towards ear, right shoulder away. And then protracting the right shoulder, retracting the left shoulder. Just try it, see if you can move. It might be a little bit easier to go a little bit faster. Trying to do One shoulder in one direction and the other in the opposite direction. And then switch. And the torso, you know, I've got a little bit more movement in my torso here as I do this. Good. Right. Let's bring our hips back to child's pose. Take a rest. You could bring your arms alongside your body here, just for a couple of breaths, just to rest your arms. And then coming forward, we're going to need your strap again. And if you have the 2 blocks, I'm going to take your blocks and put them up at the middle position. I'm going to just lay my strap out in the front here. And I'm going to bring my elbows onto the blocks. And if I can, just try to even get down to having my triceps on the blocks. And then I get to grab my strap. This is quite challenging. I'm going to try to, with my elbows on the blocks, try to pull the strap apart. So I'm kind of in a child's pose, and I've got my elbows on the block. And you might need to just forego the strap. I'm finding that it's quite challenging for me. You could bring your hands to prayer position behind your head. If you're able to keep your elbows on the blocks, the idea is to have the strap in front and try to separate the strap. Try to pull it apart. And then we'll release. Move the blocks away. Come back to the full balasana. And then bring your hands forward. Inhale, up to cow. Exhale, downward facing dog. And in your downward facing dog, spin your triceps down towards the floor, external rotation. At the same time, try to pull the mat apart with your hands. Now, in your downward facing dog, might you be able to make some circles with your shoulders? Retraction. Draw them away from the ears. Protraction. Draw them towards the ears. So it's try to make the movement in your shoulders. And then stop that. Inhale, come up to meet your hands with your feet. And come on up to standing. Great. All right. Here's where you're going to need your light block or something else you can hold in your hand, palm of your hand. So I'm going to just let the block rest in my hand like I'm serving someone a tray of desserts. And I'm going to start with a pretty open stance, and I'm going to allow my body to have lots of movement. And I'm going to tuck the block underneath my arm, bring it up over my head in a circle and back to the front. And so I'm going to let my whole body kind of move with this, right? I'll tuck the block underneath my arm. I keep the block from falling, so I circle it in front, up over my head, and bring it back to the start. All right, tuck it underneath, circle, and bring it back. So hopefully you haven't chosen a 5-pound bag of sugar. Although if you chose your heavier block, of course, this would be a little bit more work in the shoulder. And if you can speed it up a bit, go for that. And then see if you can have less movement in your body and have this, woo, almost dropped it, have this be more in the shoulder joint. Might not work in your shoulder. Good. Next time the block is out to the side, let's reverse the direction. Right? So we started here, going underneath, right? And we came across, up overhead and back to the center. So let's go backwards. Woo! There it is. Almost dropped it. Ah, there we go. All right, try the other hand. Maybe this side will be easier, maybe harder. If this is your non-dominant hand, I just put it in my left hand. So it just might be a little more difficult just from that standpoint. So holding the block out in front to start, I'll tuck it underneath my armpit, sweep it, big circle above my head, and bring it back to the front. Trying to do this without dropping the block. I promise I don't have any sticky tape on the block. And then let's see if I can have it be less in my body. Oh, less in my body, a little bit more in my shoulder. And my left shoulder feels a little less coordinated than my right, which kind of makes sense because I'm right-handed. And then I might try to be really still. Again. Back to center. Can you reverse the direction? Start by allowing yourself to have lots of movement. Yeah, definitely feels different for me in my left hand. Slow it down a little bit. See if I can have less movement in my body. And I think for me, it just feels like just a little less coordination on my non-dominant side. Great. All right. And then just set the block down for a second. Come to standing in Tadasana. Now inhale, sweep your arms up, palms facing one another. Draw your shoulder blades down. So depress the shoulder blades. Reach the fingertips towards the ceiling. Draw your navel in, your low ribs in, and then fold. Knees can be bent here. Inhale to halfway. Exhale, fold, plant your hands, step back, downward facing dog. Roll the triceps down towards the floor. Pull the shoulder blades down and find kind of a neutral position between retraction and protraction. Inhale to rock forward in the high Dandasana, high plank. Press the floor away. exhale, come back to the downward facing dog. Feel the work in your shoulders as you move back and forth just a few times from plank to downward facing dog. And next time you're in downward facing dog, stay there, walk your feet up to your hands. Inhale halfway. Draw the shoulder blades down, so deep press shoulder blades. And broaden through your back, so a little bit more protraction. And then bend your knees and set yourself hips back, come into Utkatasana, chair pose, and reach your arms beside your biceps. Good, press yourself up and just release your hands down to your sides. Okay, open your stance now wide. You're gonna need that block again. And we're gonna try to do the same thing, but we're gonna come into extended side angle. So if you need your, I have to just move my sticky mat over here so I have a nice stable base. So come into extended side angle. And the backhand, the front forearm will rest on the front leg, and then the back hand will hold the block. So I'll sweep it underneath, over my head, and back to the front. Now I want to stay open in my chest here. I just want to see if I can have this movement be in my shoulder. Sweep it underneath. I'll circle overhead and back to the front. And a lot of times, so we're using this little block to, and you could add some weight here. Or you could also just hang out in one part of the rotation that might feel nice to you. Take a couple more times. And then you could see if you could reverse the circle. Good. So use the legs for stability. So let's turn to the other side. And again, so I've turned now, I'm right foot forward, so I'm going to do the whole movement with my left arm, which I've already discovered my left shoulder isn't quite as coordinated, but we'll pass it underneath, round in a circle, and back up. Can you follow this with your eyes? What does it feel like when you follow it with your eyes? Does it help or does it hinder? Stay true to the shape of your side angle. And then see if you can take this in the opposite direction. Ooh. And then after that last one, just set your block down to the side, turn both feet to be parallel to one another, and just take a fold. Walk your hands forward like you're in the downward facing dog. Roll the triceps down towards the floor, so that's external rotation. Feel some broadness through your back. Draw the shoulder blades down away from the ears slightly. So you had some space in your neck. And then walk your hands back towards your hips. Hands to hips. You can hinge up at the waist or roll up at the waist, whatever feels good to you. And we're going to grab the strap now. And we're going to bring the strap just behind our back. And we're going to take the hands so the palms are facing in towards the back of your body. So that is external rotation. And then lift the strap off your back. Now notice when you do that, if you jut your head forward, can you line the back of your head up with your sacrum? Draw your tailbone down towards the floor. And then step right foot forward, left foot back, come into the warrior one. Keep reaching the hands down towards the floor. Strengthen your legs, draw your low ribs in. Trying to pull the belt apart and reach your arms off your back as much as possible. Balancing on your front foot as you come forward with your body, and then the back foot can just stay on the floor, could reach up a little bit, but see if you can tilt your body forward in some variation of warrior three, reaching your hands, your arms off your back. Let gravity help a bit here. And then tilt back. Come to standing, release the strap for a minute. Just let your arms rest, your shoulders rest. Take a couple of breaths here. And then strap back behind your back. External rotation, so palms are facing your sacrum. That means your arms are in external rotation, your shoulders are in external rotation. Step your right foot back now, left foot forward, warrior one on this side. Reach down with the strap, reach down with the tailbone. Broaden through the collarbones. Draw low ribs in, draw navel in. Notice if you've got the chin way up here or the chin jutting forward, can you line the back of your head up with the back of your sacrum? And then we'll just kind of rock forward. Any amount is fine here. We're just working into a version of warrior three. And you can release the belt, just let the belt down to the side for a moment. Come to Tadasana. Feel length through the arms. I feel like my arms are about 2 inches longer right now. Inhale, sweep your arms up slowly, slowly, slowly. Exhale, hands in prayer, come through center. Touch down with your palms, step back, downward facing dog. Come forward to the high plank. Knees down, lower, down to the floor. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, you'll come right down onto your belly. And now just reach your right arm out to the right and press into your left hand, coming onto the right shoulder, just opening here. Maybe you can You don't have to do anything but just sort of open in that right shoulder. And you could bring your top leg behind you if you wanted and open through the hips. And then you'll come back to your belly, left arm extended out, press up and roll and open that side up. If you needed to rest your head on a block, you could. And then come back through center. Bring your hands alongside your low ribs and press yourself up and back to child's pose. Tent your fingers, so you make a little, so you come up on your fingertips, tenting the fingers, the palms, and then externally rotate the arms. So bring your triceps down towards the floor, broaden across your upper back. So kind of an active child's pose. And then you can press into your knees and come up and reach your arms overhead. Bring hands to heart center and just release your hands alongside your body. Okay. And one more little supportive opening. So if you have the big strap, the 8-foot strap, you're going to get it right in the middle. I'll just put my back to you here. I'm going to bring it right underneath your, right at the base of your scapula, scapulae. And then you'll cross it in the front and bring the cross behind your head so that it crosses. I can see that my tails, your tails have to be even here. So when you put it on, bear with me here, just make sure your tails are even. So I've got it right at the base of my shoulder blades, and then I cross it way out in front of me so I can put that behind my head. And now I have a cross right at the nape of my neck. A little bit of coordination to keep the cross there. And then I'm going to take the tails and I'm going to pull on the tails. All right, and you can see I come in sort of a couple different orientations here. You can see how that's opening my shoulders for me, allowing me to get some, and I can pull straight down with the tails. I could try pulling out with the tails. See how that feels as support for my shoulders. And here, this has to be one of the long straps. And you might even be able to come around front, depending on the size of your body, and just give it one little tie. And I get this, we call this the backpacker's strap. And this just puts my shoulder blades in this more, less flexion oriented shoulder position, and more of an open shoulder position. So as we get older, especially, we tend to round forward, and the shoulders, all the work we do in front of our bodies, right? We put our shoulders in flexion more than extension. It's just a nice way to sort of combat rounded shoulders. Great. So I just wanted to show you that. Okay, so now you can take that off, set it over to the side, come back to the child's pose. Set yourself back up to table. take a couple more rounds of those shoulder circumduction, right? Either on your hands, on your forearms, on a block, hands in any position, but just go slow now again, retracting, drawing away, protracting, elevating, retracting, drawing the shoulder blades down, protracting, up by the ears. Take some circles. Try to really isolate it in your shoulders. Go both directions. And once you've done that a few times, just come back to sitting on your heels and just give yourself a test again. So bring one hand behind, just at the nape of your neck here, right at the cervical spine, and the other one reaches up from behind. Check both sides. Yeah. Great. And then we'll come down to our backs. Let's stack the knees over top of the hips. And we'll bring the arms out to cactus. All right, so we'll finish with a little bit of twisting, but still some strong work in the shoulders. So just drop your knees over to the left, but keep your right shoulder on the floor. Back to center. So your knees might not go very far. Drop your knees to the right, keep your left shoulder blade on the floor. Back to center. Take just a couple more times. And then you could bring, if this works in your shoulders, bring your arms into making like a little square for your around your head. Drop your feet to the floor, drop your knees to the left, and draw your this square around your head to the right. So you're in a nice twisty position. If that doesn't work in your body, just have your arms out in a T. You'll inhale your knees up to center and take the other direction. So just finishing in this twist. Draw navel up and in. And then as you start to, you could go back and forth a few times here, or if there's something else that's calling to you, go for that. As you start to come back down towards resting, towards Shavasana. Hopefully you're not going paddling this afternoon. Well, maybe you're all warmed up for that. Or climbing. And when you do come to final resting Shavasana, just press slightly on the back of your head and tuck shoulder blades underneath. And again, feel the whole surface of your shoulder blades on the floor, making contact with the floor. And then let all your effort go. Release your jaw. Soften the muscles around your face. around the eyes. Soften your inner ear. Deepen your breath, extending the exhale. Even though we didn't move a great deal, we did some pretty fierce work, so might have put you in your sympathetic nervous system a bit. So now coming back to parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. Stay where you are. If you'd like to join me in your seat, take your time. Maybe taking a few breaths on one side. And bringing your hands in front of your heart center in a gesture of prayer that feels right to you, that calls you. We'll take a few ohms here. Inhale through the nose. Deepest gratitude, my friends. Thank you for making what I do possible by coming and being a part of this community. And may the merit of our practice encourage all beings to unveil the hidden brilliance that lies within. Isn't it amazing that Amanda Gorman spoke to this? There's a bright light as long as we're brave enough to see it and brave enough to be it. Namaste.